Welcome to the Robcast. This is a show about Oakville, the people that work, live, and do business here. Really excited about today's show. This is Julia Hanna. You're not going to want to miss this.
It's the Robcast Podcast. He's with you for the next hour or 20 minutes. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. Here he is. It's Rob Raham.
Julia, thank you so much for being here.
It's just, I'm so looking forward to this. I mean, it's hard when you know you're going to be talking to someone that everybody says, he's such a nice guy. Jeez. So I want to know your real story. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, you're going to flip the mics on me here today?
Exactly.
Okay, we'll see about that. Yeah. Let's get into it. You were born into, immigrants from Italy,
yes.
Obviously in Toronto. Tell me about your upbringing and what led you to Oakville.
Well, first of all, like in 1956, my parents came here, like many Italians did, and they settled in Toronto. And we were talking earlier, my introduction to Oakville was as a chum girl. Back in the day, there was a radio station called CHUM 1050 Toronto, right? And they had a contest where if you put a chum bumper sticker on your car, and you would get money if you got pulled over.
Is that
right?
What
a job I had, to drive around, just look for the bumper sticker. And I remember coming into Oakville as someone in her early 20s and thinking, wow, what is this oasis? Like even then, right? Mm-hmm. And how I ended up opening a restaurant here when my culture had been in the city. And one of the things that my family said to me, the one I opened my first restaurant, was called Cafe Galleria. Rob, it was in the back of a long hallway.
Okay.
You would hear the clip, 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 clip of your shoes. Open up a door, and there was this little restaurant in the back.
Was this downtown Oakville?
Yes, 151 Lakeshore.
151, okay.
East, yeah. And the thing was, nobody knew about it. So people would come.
Is this where the burger place is now? Yes, down that strip. Okay, yes.
10 years I had that. And as you walk down that hallway, people would open the door, and they would look in, and there'd be no one there, and you'd watch them boot it back up, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So what I started to do, Rob, is I took dirty dishes, dirty coffee cups, put them all over the tables, and when someone would open the door, I said, I'm so sorry. We were so busy. I haven't had a chance to sit at the table. And they're looking around going, I don't know. Well, okay, we'll take a chance. And we built from that. But when I first opened my first restaurant here, friends of us took us to this restaurant. I had never discussed I was going to open a restaurant.
Well, I was looking to ask you, how did you get to even that point? I mean, obviously your family, right. Food, everything. It was everything growing up as a family. But what drove you? This is what I need to do. I had really interesting jobs. I was very lucky, but I learned quickly that I wasn't probably meant to be working for someone else. I knew that. I knew that for certain. You and me both.
But right. And I remember when my family heard that I was opening a restaurant in Oakville, they said, well, Oakville, there's no Italians there. What do you mean you're going to open Oakville?
Yes, there is.
And I'm going, I got news for you. Italian food is universal. People love it.
Yeah, comfort food.
And they embraced it. And they embraced me. And they took it. I was 26 years old when I opened the restaurant, Rob.
Yeah.
And I had $800 in the bank.
Was it the whole business loan, get it going kind of thing?
What? Rob, business loan. Are you kidding? The bank, as soon as they see restaurateur coming, you see all you can actually hear the click, click of the locks on the door.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, no. And even now, it's even worse.
It is, yeah. It's a challenge. I don't know how these people, especially with the rent that they're paying downtown, it's insane.
Our industry is a passion project. If people who go into this for profit-driven, actually, Doug, when he was talking about that, I agree wholeheartedly, is that it's a passion project. The profit margins in restaurants, if you see what the profit margins are, they're not only shrunk, they're going in the negative area now. There has to be something that drives you more than that. Yep. And it's truly the power, for me, it's always been, Rob, the power of food. We underestimate how powerful food is in our lives, how it can impact our families, how it can impact us getting together. Look what happened in COVID. What's the thing that gathers us together? It doesn't matter where we're from in the world, what our ideological beliefs are, but all of us, when we gather together at the table, everything gets neutralized. And there's a coming together.
Yep.
And only food is, I believe, food is the number one conveyor of bringing people together.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell me how when you, and I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you, and I utilize food in the same way with my family, and we always look forward to getting together, and I think more people should be taking advantage of that, of course. Tell me when you knew you kind of had made it as a restaurateur. Was there a point where you kind of thought, I mean, you're talking about passion projects, and you've moved on. I mean, you started Paradiso. When did you kind of go, I've got something here, and Oakville's embracing me, and I'm going to keep working at this?
I think once you, if you get past your first 3 years in a restaurant, like I
first year,
really, you know what my greatest success has been, Rob? Like it's kind of funny, but my greatest success has been that the sheriff hasn't been to my door yet. I have never had to close a restaurant. People think I closed Julia's. I never closed Julia's. I sold Julia's. There's a big difference, right? The people who bought it completely tore it apart, which we never quite understood, but they didn't last very long, which kind of made sense.
We've talked about this with other brick and mortar people. The owners is kind of expected to be there, and it's part of the whole experience, right? And obviously it's a business for you as well, and you move on to other projects. But once that original owner who started that with their passion, that business changes no matter what once they're gone. Right?
I agree. I think that the owner, but you have to. It's the owner having passion is where it starts, but you need. That passion has to be contagious, and you need to be surrounded by people who feel that too, because you can't carry that on your own. As a matter of fact, I can remember, Rob, when people would say to me, I went to the restaurant and it was nice, but it wasn't the same, you weren't there. And I used to think that was a compliment. It was the worst thing they could say to me. It's when they come to the restaurant and they don't even notice I'm there. That's when you know you've done it right. That's when you know you have the right people and you have good people. And
the extensions of you, right?
Yeah. No, the extension of the belief in that I'm here. Servers, restaurants have the power to affect how someone feels 100%. About themselves.
You have a bad server, it changes the whole experience. You have an incredible one.
Rob, even how you feel about yourself. Like a server, like we talk often about how people can be so rude and mean to service people. Signs all over the place. You have to be polite. Like imagine we have to tell people to be polite.
Crazy.
But we don't realize that we as servers, we have power to affect how a person feels about themselves by making them feel they matter. So when they're sitting at that table and you're caring for them, you're letting them know you matter to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can change the trajectory of that person's day.
How do you feel like the change? I mean, this is probably 10 years ago now, but with Google rankings and like everyone's a foodie now. Everyone is judging you. And it's, they don't have the courage to do it in front of you. Then they'll go home and hide behind their computer. And how do you think, and the problem is that it's become important for the marketing of your restaurants.
Absolutely.
You have to have a good ranking, yet the people ranking it.
Yes.
Where do you stand on that?
Well, truth or the politically correct answer? Oh my goodness. I'm old enough and to say that I can remember when someone had an issue, they actually wrote you a letter and they signed it and you called them and you said, how do we fix this, right? How do we make this better? Here's the thing about anytime someone who is my age starts lamenting about, the way things were, who cares the way things were? Let's deal with what we have in front of us today.
Yes.
Right? The only challenge that I have with the reviews and the anonymity of it, that people don't have to identify themselves.
Correct.
You're allowed to not like something. You're allowed to say publicly you don't like it. But being nasty and mean and going through that. And now when I see restaurateurs that are literally afraid, like they're afraid, like when that starts to impact how you do business because you're so worried that you're going to get that review, it's time to walk.
Yeah.
Just you have to understand it's there. Do the best job you can. And you know what? You're going to blow it. As good as you may be, there's going to be a time where you just aren't your best.
Yeah.
And you need to own it as a restaurateur and say,
we messed this one up. How do we make it right?
I need to fix this.
But they don't even give you that opportunity. It's just like these blind comments that you're like, thanks for the constructive criticism, right?
Well, and then if you could say what you really want to say.
Well, exactly, and you have to be polite. Thank you so much for your interest.
Well, the thing is, especially when someone's being nasty, the problem is if you can't go back the same way because you're never going to win in that war.
No, of course not.
And then you're getting, you get in the mud, and you don't want to be there. But you have to listen to criticism, whether nobody likes to be criticized.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I mean, I've been growing up in Oakville. I mean, I remember there kind of being like a heyday when downtown Oakville had all these great restaurants, and they still do.
Sure do.
But some of them have changed or they're moving. But like I remember like the Jonathans and the Olivers and the Seasons and Paradiso. Like there were these 8 to 10 great, consistent restaurants that have been there for 10 plus years, and we've lost half of them or more. And some of them are different ownership and things like. Talked about the heyday, like when that was happening.
Oh my gosh! When I opened Paradiso, I remember I sold Cafe Galleria, just going through a divorce, and 2 little ones. And well, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to open another restaurant, and they talk about the wonderfulness of life. Sometimes bad things turn into good things, and probably shouldn't share the story, but it's kind of funny. The people who bought Cafe Galleria put a covenant on my husband that he couldn't open. They didn't put a covenant on me. Like, what was I doing there? Like, I was there working every day. Like, hello, did you see me? Hello? Yeah. So there was no covenant on me, so I was able to open up Paradiso. And when I was looking at what I wanted to do, I looked at all the restaurants in downtown Oakville, and I didn't see the lineups. So why would I want to do anything that's already being done? And we did something different.
You did.
And that's what Jonathan's did. Yep. They brought something different. That's what George did at Seasons. He brought in something different, the California feel. You know, all of those restaurants brought in something that wasn't your traditional sort of Oakvillian restaurant. Yeah. And the people of Oakville get it.
What was the inspiration behind Paradiso? Was there a country or place? What was?
My gosh! Well, first of all, good food, Rob. Yeah. Good food is good food, and it doesn't matter what country it's coming from. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as an Italian, if you ask me what's favorite cuisine, I'm going to tell you Italian. But good food is good food, and Mediterranean food was just coming to the forefront. And I really believe that when it's the right thing, things do fall in place. We had, for example, I'm in a restaurant in Greektown in Toronto, and there's a guitar player. And I just said, you need to come. And Oakville. And his name was Roberto Butterazzi, and who calls himself Robert Michaels, who's now a Juno Award winner. And oh my gosh, but he used to play the guitar and go through the restaurant.
Just enhancing the experience.
And
that's what they do back in Greece and Italy. That's like...
It's about creating an experience. Rob, I wanted Paradiso. The look of Paradiso was completely different. We had cherubs on our walls. It was so different than what anybody had ever seen.
I mean, one of the unique kind of side patios, right? As close to the water, I think,
and what it took to get that patio. The town wasn't as open-minded as it is now.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. They actually asked me what was happened to someone if they drank too much outside. And I thought that was a trick question. I thought, the same thing that would happen to them if they were sitting inside, right? But no, the ideas come from, there's no point, and I'm sure you do the same thing. You don't want to look at what's happening in your neighborhood. Look at what's going on in the world, what's resonating out there, and take the ideas and inspiration, like from Morocco, from Italy, from Spain, and then make it your own. Mm-hmm. Make it your own. And just because you're inspired by others doesn't mean you're copying others. Yeah. They inspired you. The key is, as long as you make it your own. Because we had restaurants, what happened with Paradiso, 2 restaurants literally came and duplicated what we did. One of them in Guelph. Yep. And we went, and everybody's like, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm not going to do a thing about it. Let them do their thing. Because you know what? They're not going to last. Because if it's not yours...
Yep, the passion, the authenticity.
If it's not yours,
you can't cookie cut these things.
You can't, Rob. You just can't, right? Yep. So they didn't last. But Paradiso, from the time we opened the door, was like an...
How long was it open for?
10 years. I sold it in 2000, and the boys who have it...
long ago now?
Yep,
Jeez.
and the boys who have it, they're still there.
Yeah, they're fighting.
Oh my gosh, and they're fighters, and they're good guys, and and they have another one in Burlington.
Yeah.
But it's all about, it's so important that you get noticed, because in this industry.
It's interesting, like, as I'm just trying to think about these, we've had other guests on, Doug, you mentioned, but and other businesses downtown, and some people need the walkability, some people don't. The town of Oakville has tried to make wider sidewalks and things, but even Kyle and I were trying to do a shoot down there, and with people, there's no people. The cars are full.
I know.
Was that part of the reasoning of you changing locations up north?
Well, when I first opened up Ritorno, it's right at Trafalgar and Dundas.
Yes.
When I first opened up there 15 years ago, I remember people looking at me like,
you're going into like a different Milton, basically, right?
This one's going to do her in.
Not going to work.
She's done well. And I'd watch people, they couldn't see that I could see them as they're walking to their car and shaking their head going, oh, darn.
Love her, but this is
no. But I had identified then that this is an area where people live. And, not everybody wants to eat at a chain restaurant. God bless the chains. Who's going to live without their Tim Hortons or Starbucks, right? But you don't necessarily want to eat at them every single time, right? And I'm glad we were right.
So wondering, I mean, when you just chose to move kind of up into what was then North Oakville, which is now Central Oakville, did you have the foresight knowing it was growing in that direction? Was part of it being the rent expenses, or was it just a new journey for you?
I think it was a combination of all things. I think the rents in downtown Oakville has been talked about, and unfortunately, the reason why none of the chains go there, and they won't go there, because it doesn't meet their parameters. And the biggest part is the rent, and there's no parking.
Right.
The parking situation became such a challenge after, Rob, I had restaurants there for 35 years.
Yeah.
My restaurants.
Galleria, that was your core. That was where you were.
Paradiso, Julia's, And I even had a nightclub called the Ozone that had gargoyles.
That was yours?
In the theater, yes.
I was not ever there.
With gargoyles that shot out flames.
I remember.
God, it was crazy. And I had a little chicken place called Gourmet Chicken, right? Like in front of where Corks was, yeah. Yes. So downtown Oakville was my home.
Yeah.
But the parking, you can't surmount the insurmountable. And when I looked at the north of Oakville and knew what was going to happen up there and what the plans were for North Oakville and the parking.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet on the sophistication of the people who live up there, that they would know good food. And guess what?
They did.
They sure do know good food.
I know Oakville's tried to make these measures. They widen the sidewalks, and we mentioned that. But in the summer, they do this where they create these kind of patios in the parking area, which is now removing even more parking. And I'm like, is this the right thing to be doing? What are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
The thoughts, here's where the challenge lies in Oakville. It's better now than it's been. But, I also ran for mayor, and within 2% last time. That's pretty good. I know. But part of the things the reasons that motivated me so much was to do something about that parking. Yeah. And there were opportunities for us that we should have grabbed and we didn't, and the post office being one of them.
Still sitting there empty.
Yeah, but again, you're never going to alleviate the whole problem. And to expect people are going to come up and pull in front of their space and walk in, it is not the wall. And if you park at Walmart, you're still going to have to go to the end of the parking lot and walk. Exactly. So, but being realistic, it's when people do the 1, 2, 3.
Yep. I'm done. Forget it.
Or they remember that. They remember it was great.
I'm not going back down there. You can't find.
I enjoyed it. I need to be in the mood to go through that. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why. The seasonality of it. And that's one of the biggest challenges of downtown Oakville. Yeah. Come May, we go into combat dining.
Boom, 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 all summer. Boom. Yep.
October hits. November hits.
A little bit of spike up.
A little bit, Christmas. And then December, and then
boom.
So really, life is a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah, sure.
And if you can eliminate that in your business, why not? And here in Ritorno at Trafalgar and Dundas,
you found that.
Then a little bit. Yeah. And you can staff, you can plan, and that is the biggest challenge of downtown Oakville, is how do we get people there in the winter months? Right. Because where do we draw them from, Rob?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
No, I mean, obviously, yes, you ran for mayor, and obviously we're going to touch about this. And where were you in your current business life when you thought, or was there something that happened when you said, I need to raise my voice and stand up for the people here that I think we need to make, that we can make this better?
Because you can't unsee what you see. And my biggest fear, and I think it's what's starting to happen, because you now see what's going on in the Midtown core with the proposals that have been in front of the council, which the council is really doing an incredible job at holding it at bay. But the reality is, if you're not planning ahead, and politicians don't do that, Rob, because they're not going to make decisions that are unpopular at the time because they have to worry about being voted in the next time. So anytime in 2009 and 2013, we had 2 proposals for that Midtown that would have been beautiful, accepted into the community, and they weren't accepted. Why? Because any change would have created a bit of an uproar, right?
Yes.
I think it's so important that we maintain who we are, but change is an inevitable part of life. And we know, because I know you're a lot younger than me, but you have lived long enough to know that whether you like it or not, change is going to happen. Don't you want to navigate it yourself?
Yeah.
And what I was saying, as politicians, you navigate it. Don't get it forced upon you.
You're
right?
saying when we first walked in here, you mentioned, and the Oakville bubble. And,
right.
And, when we'd go, if I was at camp growing up, the Oakville,
right.
you're this, but at the same time, that was something not more than just a financial thing. It was special. It was this community. Yeah. And you feel like it's burst.
Well, I think challenges that are waiting now, and the sad thing is, whoever comes into play is going to have to deal with these issues that weren't tended to in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so if you just want to keep things just the way they are and not make the changes, they're going to get forced on you. And that's what's happening, Rob.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in our personal lives.
Yeah.
If we see the changes in front of us, but we don't like it, so we're going to just pretend they're not happening, ignore them, and guess what?
Exactly.
They're going to come and smack you in the face. And then your choices are far more limiting, right?
Yeah. One of the challenges, Julia, that I face here in Oakville is, as a realtor, I'm always in front of people and I'm dealing with clients, and I like to be able to get solutions by talking to people. Right. And I would go to the municipal building almost daily for surveys or building permits or things like that. There's nobody in that building anymore. Yeah. There's a couple people at the front and the tax collector at the back, and I'm just trying to think, like, we're missing something here.
Of course, and we're missing the human contact.
Yes.
And COVID.
You mentioned with food, right?
Yeah,
Humans together.
And COVID took that away from us. And now we're having a real hard time getting back. We were disconnected for so long that I think we've kind of, like, it's like anything, like if you stop working out for 2 years and then you start again, it's like, whoa, what happened?
What about 20 years?
Yeah, well, exactly. But now, it's been 2 years. And people are so used to not having, like, they don't want to talk to people. They don't want to face.
Oh, it's because you even call and get connected. Yeah. They don't even answer. It just goes straight to send me an email, right?
Do you know the World Health Organization just a few months ago stated that one of the top epidemics in the world today is loneliness. And we need face-to-face contact.
Right.
We're far more creative when we are together than when 100%. We're trying to do. We are
working as a team.
We are
energy.
We're just better, and it is hard when you're dealing with human beings. Oh man, and like when I got my dog, first time I ever had a dog 15 years ago, I really truly asked why my
retriever?
No, it was a Havanese.
A Havanese, sorry.
I truly asked myself, why am I bothering with humans, right?
Of
because
course, unconditional.
They're just unconditional and they're just so nice.
That tail wags every time you walk in the door,
and
right?
when you wake up in the morning and your husband looks at you like, whoa, and your dog just sees you in all your beauty, right?
Yep.
But the reality is we need to be together, and things get done better when it's face to face. You can't get the nuances, you can't get the connection, you can't feel the pressure that person is feeling over an email. You're misreading, misinterpreting, right?
Julie, let me ask you, what do you think some of the roadblocks are that are preventing the town or other corporations from getting people to come back to the office? Because
I think we had 2 years. I don't think that we truly have acknowledged the impact of COVID.
Right.
Far, far bigger than what we know. And you see that in the hesitancy and people wanting to go back to what was once a normal routine for them, right? Because for 2 years, it's not natural for some humans to be among other people. It's more, their natural inclination is to be on their own, which is perfectly fine. But we need that contact.
Right.
We need it. And it's hard. Raw people are finding it very hard.
You mentioned we haven't seen the end of this. You were more fortunate to have your adult children at that time. I had young children going to school. I
can't even imagine.
And luckily, we've kind of fought through and this, but I know that you're right. We haven't seen the true impact.
Seen the mental health impact that it's had, and particularly kids from ages of 10 to like 15 is huge, huge. You know, and social media, you know, we need it in our lives. And it has
its purpose.
Oh my goodness, does it ever? And it's done such amazing good things, but equally on that balance sheet, it is very destructive to the human psyche. Right? And people now aren't living their own life. They're living it through someone else's life. And that's a curated life. You know, I can't even tell you how many people I've talked to, and I know they're going through hell by talking to them. And then I see their posts, and it's like everything's great.
Rainbow and sunshine.
Well, what kind of pressure is that putting on them? How do they feel that they have to now curate this imaginary life? Life is tough. It's hard. We are struggling. Let's just say we're struggling. I need you to help me through this. Social media just tells you you're not good enough. They're better. They have a better life than you. And do we need more reasons to feel bad about ourselves, Rob?
Absolutely not.
I think on a daily basis we get our fair dosage, right? And social media is just like that weight.
The constant weight. We've talked about some of the challenges and that we're all facing as Oakvillians and just as people in general. Let's pull it back into something positive here. Like, what do you, when you look at Oakville, if someone from somewhere, a different country came and visited, how would you explain this? What makes this place so special?
Oh, Oakville we're blessed. Like anyone who lives in Oakville, we should practice gratitude, because what we have, like, you know, and that's a great thing about running in the election. It really got me into areas of Oakville that I wouldn't have necessarily visited. And we just geographically where we're located, right? The fact that we have a Brawny area that's thriving, a downtown Oakville area that's thriving. There's a Kerr Street that's thriving, and now there's a North Oakville that is starting to build their own
Midtown.
And the Midtown. Don't forget, we developed a Midtown. So we have all these distinct communities within a community. Right? That's the beauty of Oakville. But we cannot pretend that we have one of the highest poverty rates in Halton here in Oakville. We cannot pretend that there are a lot of people struggling. We can't pretend that seniors who have dedicated their lives and lived here in this community now are forced to leave.
We've done work in the past with Kerr Street Ministries, even Food for Kids, you know, and their great cause. And people are completely unaware that there's this many students that they're required, they don't have a lunch that they can afford to bring to school. And people are completely unaware. Oakville's well off and rich, but it's not.
It's not. And I think our strength, like one of the things that my restaurants have allowed me to do is do the work to give back to the community. The reason why I haven't had more than one, well, I had Julia's and Ritorno together. I've had two restaurants maximum at the same time, because I needed to do other things. Like I started something called, you know, Healthy Fam, with partnership with Longo's, where we have thousands of at-risk families and kids coming through our kitchen and teaching them how to cook for themselves. And that's how I was really introduced to what's really going on behind the scenes in Oakville. And here's the problem, Rob. If we don't identify that we have a challenge, then it's going to be a bigger challenge.
There's a lot of sweeping under the carpet here to maintain a certain image.
And that doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't mean you can identify the issues and the challenges and celebrate the wonder of this community. They don't have to be opposite. And I think we're better as a community. We're even that much more special when we look and say we're privileged. And because we're privileged, we need to help those who are not.
I think you bring up a good point, and I wanted to touch base with this on you because, to me, the loss of the Oakville Beaver as a community notice and news is a huge loss that and, you know, and there's not been a replacement. And how do you feel about not having that? I mean, even with notices from the town or stories about supporting these charities, it's gone. And the internet is too scattered. There's not one location, I believe, of where you can find community news.
And again, it is. I don't think we're totally grasping the significance.
Because it wasn't just here; it's a Metroland across
Milton, Georgetown, Burlington. what happens, what we're getting is information that's happening in other parts of the world, and we're getting it through social media, which is not the best place because, again, journalism at one time, remember, Rob, journalism was meant to investigate the truth.
Right.
Are they investigating the truth on social media?
No, they want clicks.
They want clicks. And when you want clicks, truth is on the lowest.
Yeah.
But the thing about community papers that I miss the most is it celebrates the people who live in the community.
Right.
And it holds people accountable.
It does.
Politicians, if I didn't have to clear a payroll every 2 weeks, I'd probably spend more time in Holt Renfrew. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I have accountability. I know I have to do this. I have to. There's someone who's on top of me, making sure I'm doing my job.
Right.
Because I am a human being. We are human beings. Unfortunately, as human beings, we need checks and balances, unless you're Mother Teresa. Yep. Right? And what the newspapers were check and balance. They asked the questions and they made it relatable to the people living in the community.
Yep.
Right? Now, who's doing that? And that's and even the stories of the amazing things that are happening, activities, people that are doing good work in the community. Yep. They're not being showcased.
Charity, athletics, scholastic, anything.
Rob,
entrepreneurs, business.
Rob, it's keeping it. That's why this podcast, good on you for doing this. You know, like I think I'm impressed because it is a way, it's a vehicle to bring people in the community out, to introduce them to other people in the community, right?
I appreciate that. That was its intention, right? Because
right.
I feel there's a void.
Right.
And there's nowhere for people to be heard. And I think that people deserve to be heard.
They want, we all want to be seen. We all need to feel like someone actually heard me. And when you take away things like community newspapers, it was also a place that Jill Davis is one of my best friends. Jill Davis was a former editor of the Oakville Beaver and the Burlington Post.
Okay.
Right? And the letters to the editor that she would get, but it was a way for the community. They could reach someone to say, look, this is happening. You need to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Where do they go now?
Extending on that, I think one of the challenges is for the town of Oakville, there's no accountability because, the Oakville Beaver was a community notices, and the town, if there was any build or change or meeting, that was their notice to people to go out. Now, they do put some signs around, but it's very selective.
Right.
What do you think about, is that, I'm sure they're over there going...
You know what it is, Rob? It's really hard for people to stay connected.
Yeah.
We criticized the low turnout we had in the last election, for example, but you have to look at people's lives today. I don't think people have lived a more stressful life ever. So for them to go investigate or try to find out what's going on, it's not going to happen.
It's not easy to find.
No, that's why the community papers presented it to them.
Yeah.
They could take a few minutes twice a week. They can go through and they can see what's happening in their community.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything that takes us away from connecting to each other is going to do harm. And that's what's happened with losing our community papers.
Yeah.
It's hurt us. There's no question.
Yeah. Well, I think I know where this question is going to go because I don't think you'll ever stop working or doing something.
Yes.
So, but what does the future hold for Julia Hanna? I mean, you've had so much success. You've run for mayor. You've got these restaurants. Ritorno still going. What is the future? What do you see?
My middle son said this is going to be the best chapter of my life, and I think he just wants a good share in the will as well. Really quick story. This is a great little idea I have with your children.
Yeah.
When you do your estate, you plan it so the number of visits they come to when they come to visit you, how many often they come, and how long they stay.
Okay.
And then we do it like per diem, like you quantify it and percentage-wise, and it'll be based on that. I think that's a concept I want. Maybe that's what I'm going to work on.
They say the biggest reward, I can't remember what businessman said it, the biggest reward in life is not the thing. It's if your kids want to be in your life when you're older, right?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's a whole... You've got a whole nother podcast there. A whole nother podcast.
So we'll leave it at that. But where do you see the future for Julia?
I think I've been blessed. I had a year from hell, went through breast cancer, surgery, chemo, radiation, the works.
Yeah.
But I was blessed with the outcome. When they tell you that you're, too bad kids, she's sticking around.
Yep.
And, but when you've had the best team, 3 female surgeons, 3 female doctors. What can I tell you? It was a party. We're taking pictures in the operating room. Who does that? But anyway, the point is, I was privileged to have the care that I had and the support I had. But during that whole process, Rob, I realized that not everybody gets that.
You know, I got to tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I was in to see Brian, your husband, about 6 months ago. He mentioned it. He said what the most wonderful thing was is the way your kids put a wall around you and made time for you during this last time. This last year of yours.
You see, what you find out anytime you deal with anything in life that's a real challenge, you do end up learning a lot.
Yep.
And, you know, when she said to me, just Nicole Callum is her name, the doctor who said to me, your life, this will change you. And I thought, well, yeah, you're going to radiate me, you're going to chemo, then you're going to it's going to change.
That's the change.
I'm going to lose my hair, then but what she really meant was I was going to look at things differently.
Another opportunity, right? Second chance.
And I have a drive right now in me that it isn't about me, and it's the gratitude that I have that I'm here, and that I had this remarkable team that just literally said to me once, "We've got this." Then I had a family and friends and support systems, and when I would walk through that cancer unit, I saw that not everybody had that, but also we're in Oakville, part of the privilege of living in this community. And now when I talk to women and I see the struggle they're having, there's a really big imbalance. So I know some of my energies are definitely going to go there.
Interesting.
I'm going to finally do my cookbook with Roseanne Longo, a dear friend of mine from the Longo family. We're going to work on that. And people ask me about politics, and I ask them, you don't like me? What happened? So we'll see what the future holds. But it's going to be busy, Rob, because I don't think getting older is freedom. It's freedom to get to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I've noticed one thing else, leave it with one thing that I've learned about people in the 40 years. I've had restaurants for over 40 years.
A lifetime, which is almost double lifetime in the restaurant industry.
Right, especially in this industry.
That can age you.
Yeah. Oh, yes. They sure can. But what I have learned is one thing that is absolutely, undeniably the truth. Out of all the people I've met and the privilege I've had to meet so many incredible people, celebrities, just people in general, the happiest people in the world are the least self-absorbed. That is not a coincidence. The most unhappy people are the ones that are just into themselves. What can I do for me? How can this help me? What am I going to get out of this? They will never get there, Rob.
Yep.
It's the people that are able to, in spite of what they're going through, have compassion and empathy and caring for those who are struggling, even though they're carrying their own. Those are the people that I bow down to.
I think it's a great message. It's not the best one to lead into this, but we got to lead into the Rob Raham Rapid Ask.
All right.
All right. So
and I'll make a rapid.
This is going to be tricky for a chef and a restaurateur, but unfortunately, you're on death row. You've got one more meal.
Oh, yeah.
Just to yourself.
Oh my.
What does that plate look like?
I think it's not just the plate of the person you're eating it with.
Well, no, this is just the plate.
Okay,
there's no
just
one
the
there.
Plate? Oh, if it's my last meal, I want a good pizza. A good pizza.
Yeah.
A good
Are you
pizza.
a thin crust?
Oh, yeah, because you can eat more of it.
Yeah.
Problem with that thick crust pizza, like who does
It's just bread.
In Italy, it's bread and then it sits there. And then in 5 minutes you look and you go, it grew.
Yeah, time for a nap.
It's still rising. It's rising in my belly. No, thank you. Yeah.
You've had a great day. It's a beautiful sunny day, spring day here in Oakville. Sunroof open. What music, what song are you putting on in the car? Is there a song, a band that gets you going?
Oh, absolutely. Elton John.
Elton John.
Oh, gosh. Bob Marley.
Oh, I love it.
Bob Marley. Oh, my gosh. Marvin Gaye. Oh, this week can go on forever.
Okay.
Because my kids, when your kids get in the car and they sit in the car and they go, Mom!
Oh, it's blaring when they turn it on? I love that.
They turn the car on and they drive my car and they complain because the music is blaring. I'm going, okay, that's good.
Let me ask you this one. So this goes back to which guests you could have.
Yes.
You could have anybody in the world, I know, excluding family, but you could sit down with anyone, dead or alive. Is there someone that you would love to sit down and have dinner with, just pick their brain and talk to them?
Wow, that is probably one of the greatest questions you're going to ask. And I think, who would I want? I would want someone like Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
I think I would want to know how he did it. I don't know how he did it.
I don't know
how he did it. Like I don't know how he did all those years. I don't know how he did it.
The hate.
How did he do it? how do you have so much profound hate leveled at you, and you still are, and you're still capable to love, Rob?
Yeah.
So, every once in a while, we get so self-absorbed. Like, take a look around you and see what people are enduring in the world.
Yeah.
When people said to me when I got my diagnosis, how come you're not, like, why?
Oh, me.
Why? Never once. I could have woken up with that diagnosis in a war-torn country, where I wouldn't have had this care, right?
Yeah.
I could, right?
That's
Imagine.
right. I didn't even think about that.
No.
Yeah. Okay, moving back on this, the last one I'll ask you. If you could travel with your family anywhere for a week, where are you going in the world?
Oh, I'm taking them to Italy.
Italy.
Been there.
Is there a spot?
In my hometown.
Where is that?
Sora Frosinone, just outside of Rome.
Okay.
It's just...
Do you still have family back there?
Go to visit them all the time.
Yeah, yearly you're there?
They get it.
I know they get it.
They get it.
We've been there many...
Everything's fallen down around them. How many governments in 60 years they've had. And somehow that piazza is filled with people gathering together.
Yeah.
And they sit around a table and spend hours with each other. Do you know what the Italians know? I'll tell you a secret. They know they're going to die.
Yeah.
So they live. That's the secret.
What I love about it is you see the 90-year-old woman who's walking to get bread every day. Why is she walking? Because she walks to get bread every day. And the food that they eat is food.
They also know, they've accepted that they need each other. We fight that.
I know, it's crazy.
We need each other. I'm miserable without my people.
Yeah.
And I want people. I need them. And they accept that I'm not much good without them. Yeah. And I need you in my life. Yeah. So.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for being here.
This was
a lot
so
of great
fun.
Messages for the people out there.
This is fun. Yeah.
I appreciate everybody watching out there, and stay tuned for another episode of the Robcast.
Thank you, Rob.